Alrighty, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Bob and Tibby podcast, the podcast where we explore people's passions in life and try to find the extraordinary in the ordinary. And you're joining us for an episode today, and we're going to be joined by a young artist called Dylan Godhania, and we're going to find out a wee bit about his life. And he made a change about 4 months ago, quite a radical change, and we're going to talk about what that is and the impact that that's had on his life. Dylan, welcome along to
Hi, yeah.
Bob and Tibby. Good
Thanks
to see
very
you.
much for having me here. Yeah, good to be in it early as well. I'll be one of the classics once it gets big here.
That's what we're looking at it anyway, or one of the what do you call it, the archives at least anyway. You know what I mean? So Dylan, talk to us a wee bit about this change you made. So about 4 months back, you decided that you were going to make a bit of a radical change in terms of life. Talk to us a wee bit about what that was, and then as we go on, we'll delve into a bit deeper as to what that came about.
Well, I knew I wanted to do it for a while, but it was still, for everybody else around me, it was a very sudden change, which was that we'd just got a new house a few months before, and I decided to take the risk, and I left my job and started my own business selling art and wooden furniture and live edge furniture and well, just a bit of everything from it. I thought that's originally what I was going to do, but now I'm even selling like mounted antlers and just taking the beauty of like natural things and whatever it tells me needs to be made out of it. And so there's nothing specific, and it's still growing. I don't even know specifically what my tied in thing is yet.
Okay, great. And tell us the name of the business then. What's the...
Yeah, it's Bark and Bone.
All right.
It does sound like a dog chew company or something like that, but and the plan originally was to change it, but it's grown on me and it's going to stay, because now that I do the antlers as well, and then obviously the trees, the wood and the wood bark, so it's bark and the bone. But
yeah,
no, I know it does sound like a dog food company or something, but I'm stuck to it. I'm committed.
No worries. And talk to me a bit about where that actually came from, because you mentioned a wee bit there saying that it was something that you thought you might have headed into. So art has been a part of your life for quite some time. So it just, you didn't just land here, just by accident. Give us a wee bit of a sense of the history then, in terms of where your kind of artistic journey started, and maybe somewhere in the middle of that where maybe the germination of Bark and Bone actually came from as well.
Yeah. Well, everybody in my family always, even before I could remember, is always saying to me about the creative things I was doing, always drawing, always painting, or any chance I got, I would be doing something creative. So ever since I knew I had to get a job, I always thought about wanting to do something creative and just tell a bit of a story with something, and instead of make a wee bit of an impact that way. And for a long time, maybe I thought I was going to be a comic artist, or I have done some film work myself. I was doing some freelance film work, but obviously at the same time, that it's hard to be a starving artist. And I thought, where's my niche market going to be? And I'd made a live edge table for my partner and then for myself. And the amount of compliments and things that I got on them, and I thought they were nice looking, but I didn't realize the interest that almost everybody seems to have in a really nice bit of wooden furniture. And I was just thinking back to when I was a good bit younger. I think me and my brother would have been about 12 years old, and we were over at my auntie and uncle's in Scotland, not far from Edinburgh. And he's always loved doing woodwork, and he took us out the back and he's shown us the lathe, and we lathed out candle stands on the lathe. And from that point onwards, I was just blown away that you can just take this big hunk of wood, and if you put enough effort into it, it becomes this beautiful ornate thing. And every bit of wood I look at now, I'm just, what's inside that? What's hidden within?
Do you know what I'm listening to you? And do you know what I'm actually thinking of? I'm thinking of Vikings.
Oh, yeah.
Have you watched Vikings?
Yeah.
And Loki, whenever he looks at a tree and he realizes what's in the tree, he has an idea what he's going to make from the tree. When you were talking about that's exactly what I was thinking of. Yeah. It sounds cool. So talk to us a wee bit more about, the journey of getting to that place, you know. So obviously you in terms of degree and stuff like that, or you were university and so on, and then you moved into obviously you have a job, you had a job and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So
yeah.
talk to us a wee bit about what that was like.
So as I said, I knew I wanted to be creative, so I went to university for film studies. And the issue for me when I was there was that I was still too constrained. Even in doing A level art, you have to always be by reference. You can't just be fully creative and let it flow out. And that was the same thing with university. My issue with it was that you were so kind of regulated. And I came to a realization that if I was going to get into the film industry, then you're just making somebody else's project. Usually, even if you're working your way up the ladder, even if you're one of the biggest directors. So I realized that maybe I needed to take a step back and really figure it out. Um, so then some time happened in between then, and I managed to get a job as a goldsmith. So I thought this is it, a creative
Right.
job where that was for a friend who he got done that as a apprenticeship, and he contacted me and said that I know you're struggling for work here and you're not sure. Would you like to apply for this because it can only be through recommendation? And went for the interview, got it, and for the first one, really loving it because your first real creative job and
Uh-huh.
there's new challenges and issues every day, and but once again, the issue was that there wasn't true
Right.
freedom to
Okay.
just to create.
Uh-huh.
There was always, okay, you have to do this to this ring, you have to do that. And I was sitting in that job and I felt a bit ungrateful for it, but I was like, I need to make this change now. I've got this first house. I'm a bit financially set down here. What's the game plan? I knew that I would maybe want to do some wooden furniture type of things like that, but there's plenty of people out there doing it. So I also knew I needed a difference. So I think for a few months I was thinking, where can the difference be? And it's a lot of this stuff is now involving antlers, and you'll see that like coat hangers with antlers
All
and
right.
things
Okay.
like that. Or I do a lot of carvings on fallow deer antlers, and then do the paintings on it. I actually wrote this one here for you.
Well, very good.
Yeah. So
Fantastic.
that seems to be where.
I'll put that up on the screen there, folks. I don't know why you can see that there, but that's quite an interesting piece. I love of the artwork or I love of the painting on the front. That almost has a almost a Neolithic kind of feel
That's
to it. That's
literally
really what
exactly
the
what
feel
it
that they're
is.
going for. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have. We can maybe get into that a bit later because once I get started on cavemen, I don't shut up about
Okay,
cavemen.
no worries. So let's roll back a wee bit there because you're going in, you're like doing film studies, you're thinking about going in and doing that type of stuff, and then a mate says, "Listen, I've a goldsmithing job here. Are you
Yeah.
interested?" It sounds very eclectic, and I suppose would that be indicative of your kind of character, your personality in terms of that, where it's kind of like going, "Yeah, I could put my hand to anything."
Yeah, no, I think sometimes it might be seen as a bit of overconfidence, but I really do think, especially in creative things, well, I think that saying that anybody's capable of anything is really true. It just depends on how much you want it. And I knew that if I went into that goldsmith job that I would pick it up quick, and I did. Um, but then still the guys there, they're all I don't regret taking the job in the first place because then that was my first chance to truly be around really passionate, talented creatives, even though it's in a completely different industry. And you just see that like you do need to, if you want to be the head of the game, you need to be pushing yourself all the time. And
Yeah.
but it's a good reality check. Yeah.
So for somebody who might not have a clue, what would a goldsmith be doing day to day? Like what does that actually look like?
Well, the rest of the guys there, since they've been working there, they went to university for it, and then they've been working there ever since. They'd be getting mounts in and then setting stones into the mounts, which if you do one movement wrong, that diamond, it could be a. We had some of the diamonds there, like worth more than the house. And
Right.
if you do one small wrong movement, the tiniest crack will just completely devalue the whole diamond. So they would be doing that. the majority of the day, and I would be doing refurb, sizings, all the stuff, the
Right.
grunt work. So I would basically people who had previously either bought a ring or had the ring for a long time, and they would say, actually, I've put a wee bit of weight on. I've lost a wee bit of weight. Could you change the size of this? Oh, I've got my hand caught in the car door. That was a very common one. Could you? My ring is mangled. I don't know how I still have my finger. You should have seen some of them. It's like, how is this person alive, let alone with their wedding finger still there? Yeah.
Crazy. So it's day to day stuff for people, as you say, like resizing some rings,
Yeah.
maybe working with metal, working with precious stones and stuff like that there in terms of just making sure people had things that they wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No matter how like if you took a ring into the other room right now and you beat it with a hammer and just ruined it as much as you could, we would be able to take it back and make it hopefully look as close as possible to what it originally was. Like a lot of it really, when I started and you would see the rings coming in, you would be like, this isn't possible. But it's a craft that we've been doing since the start of mankind. So the Neolithic people were making jewelry and stuff. So we've got it down to such a science, and you're just beating it with a hammer, and somehow it just comes out the other end looking beautiful.
And what are some of the responses that you would have got from people who come in with this idea? You know what? I don't know why you can fix this, and then by the time you've done your bit and you hand it back to them, and any particular ones stand out for you?
See, that's one of the big things that kind of upset me about it. I don't think so much the other guys, but since I had previous experience doing film work and doing art, it's nice to have people looking at your work and getting a response to it, especially when you're doing it for an individual. But the way that our company would have done it would be we'd be outsourcing our product. So then whatever repairs, whatever came in was coming through another company to us.
Oh,
And I never
right.
even got to see any of it. We would be in like a small amount of communication with them, but we'd never get anything back. We would never get to
Right.
even see the person's face. I always thought about that, to see that, oh, something disastrous has happened to this wife's ring, like less than a week before her wedding, and she thinks that like there's nothing to be done. We save it. We do a miracle on it and we save it. And you just wish you could have seen her face and you wish to seen the response. But with the business I have now, that I'm handing off every piece that I make, especially when they're custom pieces that somebody's ordered, it's nice. It's really, really nice to see
So
positive.
I'm thinking that that's maybe listening to you as well now, that maybe playing a part in you,
Yeah.
having making this shift, so while it was great to have that job, but the idea of being disconnected from people in terms of what you were doing was
Yeah.
maybe a change that you needed to make.
Yeah, yeah, massively. I think the job made me realize that I am a people person. I thought I wasn't. I thought I was a bit antisocial, and I do like my own space, but I like meeting new people. I really like meeting new people, and now that I've realized that as well, it makes me appreciate it and want to have new people coming in that I haven't met before and buying my things off me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that I just grow in this little community around it. Yeah.
And so how long were you actually in the goldsmithing job before you went, right, this is it, I need to make a move here? How long were you in?
Yeah, I was in there for 2 full years, just over 2 years. And for the vast majority of that time, I was living with my nanny on the shank.
Right, okay.
Yeah, in a wee box room, very small wee box room that had all my belongings in the world put into the room, so I'd have to slide in the bed like this. But I wasn't I enjoyed that time. I wasn't unappreciative of it, but I knew that I was working towards something. You know what I mean? I didn't know what it was then, but I knew that this isn't a permanent place for me to be as a 23, 24-year-old man living with my granny. And I was like, okay, first a new house, and then I knew that I wouldn't be staying there for forever, and I knew that I needed a big grand plan to go with it. And
Okay. And then when did that start happening for you then? So obviously you saying around about you left after 2 years in total, but obviously this idea was starting to gather pace, I suppose, in the back of your mind, and you were obviously then potentially starting to put some things in place for that. Talk to me about how you started to prepare yourself for making that transition.
yeah, after the initial buying of the house and the money that went into that, I was ready straight back into saving like a madman, knowing that whatever I was going to do, it was going to be a risk, and I needed just to make sure that I had security there. And in that period after that, then that's when I done those tables, and then I done a couple wee shelves, and I was like, this is what I want to do. And when I would get back from work in the evenings, I would be making stock, and I would be building up a stock. So when I left, I had a bunch of stock to be putting out, and that's when people started getting a bit suspicious. Once you're
Right.
walking out into my conservatory, and there's all these finished wood pieces, all these shelves, tabletops, side tables, and there's nowhere in my little house for them to go. And they're like,
Right.
what's going on here, Don? So
Okay, so people started to get a wee bit sus that, hey, he may be making a move to do something
yeah,
here, yeah.
yeah, and I found I had to give it up. I was scared to let people know, because I try to be as responsible as you can with something like that, but it's obviously a big risk, and people
Yeah.
were worried for me and worried that it wouldn't, maybe I was rushing into it, but it was in the back of my mind for a long time.
Talk to me a bit more about that fear thing, because I think, that that's something that a lot of artistic people feel whenever they make a step out, and the idea of either showing your stuff off in public for the first time, or making a massive, shift in terms of your focus and all. What way did that affect you in any way? And
Yeah, yeah. That massively, yeah, as an artist, and I think you can even imagine yourself. Like, I would consider you an artist, that making a podcast like this, and just like, how much heart's going into it, and if other people don't feel the same way about it, or even close to the same way, you take it badly. Like, it's not easy to take. But once I started putting that stuff out there, and every positive reaction to it, it's massive. It really makes a big deal. And then I done one piece where originally I didn't even think I would be painting on the antlers, but I done one piece just kind of for myself, and if it sold, then that was good. It sold. But so much positive reactions to that. And originally my whole thing was painting and drawing, and to see really for the first time that people wanted to buy my art as well, but the paintings and everything that I was doing, that was really massive for me. Like, I'm so they feel very personal to me, to even just sit there and imagine something and take it from yourself and then put it on to anything. But then for other people to see it and see why you think it's beautiful it really is massive.
so take me back a wee bit, for just in terms of maybe even a couple of weeks before you're due to leave the job, or what was it like even handing your notice in, being able to go and say, listen, even because obviously you have a friend in
Yeah.
the business and stuff, and that's an opportunity that's come your way through him saying, listen, I think you'd be great at this. That lead up to going, here, I'm going to be leaving. And if you've got a team of people around you and going, hey, I'm going to be packing this in pretty soon, is
Yeah.
daunting with that.
Yeah, that
daunting
was
as well?
massively daunting. I feel like in that place as well, it was all very, very professional. There was obviously financially, it was a very well off place because it's a jewelry place, and so everybody who's not in the workshop in suits, and you go into the boardroom every Monday,
Uh-huh.
and it's just, yeah, it's very, very official feeling, and that's just not me. And that was kind of the joke of the place, is that Dylan is almost like I'm just the little caveman just walking about beating rings. As I say, they've never seen somebody take a hammer to a ring like I do. But yeah, exactly, with my mate as well. That was one of my biggest worries, that I've let him down. I said, nobody come into the boardroom here for 5 minutes. And I brought him into the boardroom, switched it. There's a wee switch on the wall that makes the glass go
Right.
unclear.
Oh, wow. Right,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Sat him down the other side, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm leaving. Yeah, but he took it well, and we're really good mates, and he understands, and he knows that he just wants what's best for me, so he took it well. But I think everybody else was a bit shocked as well, that in the company. Yeah, after, and then that felt like I was quitting to the boss itself by quitting to my mate, but
Right,
then
okay.
bringing the boss in next, the side to him, and yeah, they seem to take it mostly well, and but I was happy that nothing negative came off it, luckily, because
Yeah.
it was scary. And then like now it's that you're doing it, it's real. You know what I mean? It's,
Yeah.
yeah, once it's out of your mouth, it's
It's done.
official.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Was there any time in the lead up to that you kind of, you doubted yourself and you were like kind of going, what am I doing? Was there any, at any point you kind of went, you know what, scrap that. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. I mean, because it is that stepping out thing
Yeah.
can be just ridiculously just scary.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm still thinking that sometimes. Yeah, it massively is. It really, really the whole time and every morning. Remember, I'd just walk into work, and then I'd have certain songs that I'd listen to by musicians I like. That the song would tell me that you got to just take your take a hold of life and don't let it hold on to you and go for it. And when I was having that doubt, I'd put the earphones in, and and then the boss would go, get the earphones out. What do you and he doesn't know I'm secretly motivating myself.
You're prepping yourself to
Yeah,
leave.
I am. I'm psychologically toughening myself up for it. I really was. Yeah, no, it was massively scary, and some days I wake up and I go like, flip, have I made the right choice here? Because it's still a start and growing business, but I'm in such a I'm so lucky to be in the place that I am and have the opportunity that I have. And even if in the long run it doesn't work out, the fact that
Yeah.
I've attempted it makes me proud of myself, and I'm having a great time. I really am.
What balances those moments out for you? You were saying there about the idea that you still get times, thinking have I done the right thing? What balances that out for you?
In what sense?
In the sense that, you can get so caught up in a thought process that you kind of just, it can be like a rabbit hole and it just becomes a negative and negative and negative, and you just kind of, you talk yourself out of something. But what is it that brings
Yeah,
balance to that for you?
yeah. I think that some mornings, especially when you don't have somebody on your back to do something, when you can wake up in the morning and do no work, and the only person to hold you accountable is yourself. It's tough sometimes to really do that, but it is really. But the whole everything that I have right now in this business, it is such a blessing, because I'll get up in the morning and I'll have the coffee and I'll be thinking to myself, let the dog out the back to the toilet, and I work out the back at the moment as well. And I'll be having a coffee and I'll be thinking, I don't want to do this. And I'm sitting there drinking a coffee out my own back garden. It's a lovely morning. I'm like, what am I on about? I don't want to do this. What am I on about? Like, I could be every other job. I've never worked a job where I think it's horrible. But in comparison to this, you know what I mean? I'm in heaven here. This is great. Like, get the head down, take this opportunity now. And if you don't, I'll regret it. That's what, yeah, I think that this could be my one chance that I don't have kids, I don't have a massive mortgage to worry about, you know what I mean? This could be the one time in my life I have the opportunity, so use it, you go for it fully.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think that you're making that move, and then there's mornings you're still syncing yourself up to kind of get into it, and that realization that, hey, I'm actually doing something that I want to do, that I'm not being forced into this here. I made a decision to do this because this is something that I'm passionate about. This is something that I'm not just passionate about, but something I'm really good at. That, I'm creating some stuff that people are really getting into it. But people sometimes don't always, think of that whenever they just think that you're just permanently motivated
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
time, and they don't realize that, so you do need to, because it's a massive responsibility when you're saying, even though you're saying you've no kids or whatever else, but life has all these other responsibilities, and let's face it, you can't do it without money coming in.
Yeah.
And if your source of income is, here, I'm just hoping somebody's going to buy some of this stuff,
Yeah.
it puts the responsibility. I need to be really, pushing hard here, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, massively. And as well that like that you can lose a bit of that motivation because it's not a set income, and you could have you could have multiple people buy something in one day and then nothing for a couple of weeks. And that can be why, yeah, this is a bad idea. This was the wrong thing to do. But then once again, I just say, okay, well, that's not selling now. I need to make something that is going to sell. And then also it can be very creatively draining. Once you've been staring at pieces of wood and you're trying to look at it and see what is the best thing to create out of this, what is the potential that is within this, by the end of the day, when you've been thinking like that for 8 hours, but then also still working your job, you're going to wake up the next morning sometimes, and you don't have that creative energy to try to think, out of the box, and try to. You can make any bit of wood into a bunch of chopping boards, but people have seen chopping boards all the time. You need to be okay. What is in this wood waiting to be taken out of it by me? And sometimes I do find myself that I'm looking at the one piece and okay, I just got to leave it. And there's pieces that could sit there for a month before
Yeah.
I decide with them.
And that's got to be. I thought that's the other side. I think of the artists, the kind of inner turmoil of the artist
Yeah,
is this idea of what is it that I can see here, or what it, and that because, as you say, becomes draining,
yeah,
doesn't it? I mean, and a lot of people think, because my day job is training, and I know some people that go, oh, you talk for a living. I'm like, I wish I talked for a living,
mm,
but it's like sometimes people don't realize that, listening, responding to people, taking on board insight from them, and trying to shape something while you're in the room with people, it's actually quite draining.
yeah, yeah.
And I suspect it's the same with the artistic process, that it'd be quite draining. So in that light, where do you go to find inspiration?
Well, I think this is once again, see, even saying these things that I'm saying, I'm like, what a lucky guy. Like, I feel so blessed for it. And like almost every day I get up and I think to myself, like, I am so blessed that I have this at the moment. Where I go when I lose my creative juices towards doing woodwork is I'll draw a picture, I'll do painting. Everybody be at work and then I'm sitting there and I'm doing a painting. Or I'll edit a video, film and edit a video. And by the time I'm done that, it's all been reset because it's reawakened it. You know what I mean? That it's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that's good, because I think it's, all artists go through that period. Even when you talk about even like writers, they go through writer's block. Songwriters, the same thing, where they find that they just can't have, there's nothing happening
yeah,
for them, and they're always looking for something, for inspiration. And there's times whenever I suppose, we push too far, isn't it?
yeah.
You try too hard sometimes. Um, What's that like, when you find that you're just pushing and pushing and pushing, and nothing seems to be arriving?
Yeah, no, that really can be tough because then once you get to that point as well, you get in your own head about it, and you, you come around the day after and you notice how little you've actually there's nothing to show for it. You know what I mean? That you're just sitting there and you're trying to be creative with it, but then there's nothing to show for it after one day, and then that whole anxiety of it, that whole mental struggle is just doubled, and you gotta catch it. And there's been a couple times so far that I've had a few days at a time where I'm just like, I don't know where to go from here. I don't know what to do. But now I'm learning as well to be independent in the sense that to catch those feelings before they get like that and go, okay, right, I'm gonna go back here and paint a picture, or I'm gonna
Yeah.
go and write something to do.
So you start to recognize whenever there's a possibility that may be,
Yeah,
there may be a wee period of doubt on the way here. There might be a wee dry period here. So I know I need to do something to kind of to
yeah,
combat that. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and that now as well, it's getting easy because originally it was supposed to just be fully wooden furniture, but now that I've let myself open it up more and I'm seeing that people are responding positively to my paintings and drawings and things like that, I go, okay, right, I'm gonna paint a big marlin on this tabletop
Right.
that I posted up. Yeah, that I just was staring at pieces of wood, didn't know what to do. Went and I'd bought a table to use the legs for it, and I took the original tabletop and I just sat in the living room and painted a full big marlin on it, so it looks like it's mounted up on the
Right.
wall. And after I finished it, I was like, that I don't know where that came from, but
Right.
I
Okay.
guess I could sell that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very good. So let's think about, whenever you started creating pieces, you've created your company, you've decided you're going to do this. What was the first piece one that you worked on, and tells me a bit about the first piece that you sold, and what that was like in terms of even the person's response to, what you had done? Because you talked a wee bit before there about, having those type of responses are really important for artists to get. Talk to us a wee bit about that there. So first thing you kind of created when you went into the idea of doing the whole thing, and then the first time you sold something, and what was the response of the person?
Yeah. Well, there was the so originally we had heard that there was a timber place right nearby to our house. We decided we'd go. Me and my girlfriend would go up and we would see just take a look about in it. And they have a big warehouse section where they've set up these huge big slabs of wood. Some smaller, some bigger, some probably over 12 foot tall and over 2 foot wide. And the straight away when I went in and just even looking at these pieces that have just been cut up in the slabs, it's just it literally every time I go there, it's like Toys R Us.
Right.
It is like being a little
Okay.
kid again, and I'll just get so excited for it every single time. And I remember being there the first time and being like shocked that nobody is building tabletops and stuff for themselves. I thought it can't be that difficult. And I seen one really nice piece, and I said, "Would you?" to my girlfriend, "Would you like that for the tabletop?" And part of me and my brain as well was thinking that there would be a few hiccups and it would be a bit of a disaster. But I had prior knowledge in woodwork stuff, but I still thought for such a big project and a bunch of money into it might be a bit risky. But it turned out great, and I was like, that is great. And then probably about 2 weeks later, we went back and I bought myself a big slab of wood for a tabletop for me, and that was a disaster.
Right. Okay.
I went to do resin with it. It went too big, too quick,
Okay.
and it was a disaster. And it was £100 bit of wood,
Right. Okay.
and I was actually sitting at that desk today. And it's not like normal wood where you can just fix it because it's saturated in resin.
Right. Okay.
And it still looks terrible, but that learned to not go too crazy,
Right. Okay.
too fast.
Brilliant. So whenever you walk into the place and you're like looking at wood and stuff, you mentioned there a wee bit like being Toys R Us and stuff. What is it that's grabbing your attention? Like, cause you're like, oh, look at the grain on that, or look at what is it that's actually floating your boat when you go and look at a piece of wood?
I think I definitely am a massive nature person, and we'll be out on walks with the dog and everything, and you can come to anything, seashells, just the way the sea is, and I'll just be like that's so beautiful, isn't it? Just naturally that it can look like that. The whole sort of
That's okay. Go on.
yeah, the whole sort of concept that supposedly that's just like a natural thing. I personally don't believe in God, but looking at the grain of a wood makes me be like, okay, I can how can that just be so gorgeous the way it is? So when I go into it, and even seeing spalted wood, so like wood that has been sitting there once it either fell down and it's just been absorbing moisture and basically starting to rot. And if you catch it just at the right moment, it makes it look even more beautiful, but it adds different grain and it's a fungi going throughout it. And there's all sorts of little things like that, or even that if the wood is growing on a certain mineral deposits, then it can change the color. If it's growing on there was a slab that I bought of a slab of oak that I bought that had a big bit of iron in the ground beside it, and it took the metallic pigment and brought it up into the grain of the wood as it grown.
Right.
And you're walking about these places, and the people working there, they know everything about wood, and you look at it and like, did somebody come and did they do that to this piece of wood? And you call them over and they'll tell you something like I've just
Sure.
told you,
Uh-huh.
and you're like, that's nuts. That's so exciting. I love that. I love that.
Brilliant. Alright folks, that's the end of part one of our conversation with Dylan Godhania and talking about his venture Bark and Bones. Make sure you join us next week for part two.